Hey guys, today we're going to talk about landing pages and how you can increase your conversion rate by utilizing this framework which I'm about to teach you and which we use all the time to increase the conversion rate of our clients. There's a lot of steps to this, so it's not going to be super easy, but if you follow along, I think you're going to learn a lot and I think it will really get you better results. If you don't know who I am, my name is Daniel Chabert and I run purple5.io and we do landing pages, conversion rate optimization, and a lot more for our clients. And if this is just a little bit too much for you to handle on your own, feel free to go on the website and send me an email or schedule a call if that is what you want. Now, let's dive into the process. I have everything in front of me. It's going to be one of those long ones, but stay tuned because I got a lot of good things loaded up, which will only be revealed as you follow along in the video. Let's just go over to my website. Right now, in front of my screen, you can see that I have two different versions of the same page. This was a client of ours that came to us not long ago. They had problems with their PDP, so their product page not performing, and we just went in and did a complete design overhaul. Now, this is just a result of hundreds of hours of work and iterations get it to a really good point. But as you can see, as we scroll down, there's just so much of a big difference. We completely redid the branding down here. As you can see, it's really elevated compared to what it was before. We did all the buttons and the logos. We even did the offer, which we changed because we added in a freebie that goes along with your purchase. We added benefits. We mined a lot of data to understand what you should talk about, what moves the needle for this type of product. And then you can see how we had a social proof. We talked about the community. We gave people an easy way to understand the product, and all this is in contrast to all the stuff that was just a bunch of text before. And if we dive in, you can see we did the branding. So what is the result going to be like? What is the journey going to be like? So we did that in here. We did this custom branding. UGC, that was just a bunch of videos, and we just did a complete overhaul. We even did the buttons. We did all this custom design work as well. Now, all this seems like a lot, but I'm going to give you a framework which we use to get amazing results and which I hope you can do as well. I also want to show you that we also did iterations. So it's not that it just happened overnight, right? So we started with this right here. We did this first version, which we weren't really happy about. We didn't see the result we wanted. We added in a bunch of extra things like that really nailed it down for us, along with a better offer and so on. So those are the kind of things you're just missing and add to cart button, and then this one is finished. But I want to show you how we really got there, right? And this is sort of the process that we follow. So this is where you want to take notes, and if you are doing landing page for yourself, this could be a good way to make sure you get good results. Or if you are an agency or something like that, maybe this is sort of a framework that will work for you as well. So we always get a project scheduled. We use Asana for our management system, and then we start onboarding a client. There are some key questions you always want to ask when you do a landing page, and you can even do this for yourself if you are a brand. And it's just really important you get clear on that, because you're going to be referencing this information all the time when you're sort of designing the page. So we have a bunch of questions here that you need to fill out. What landing page is required? Maybe you don't know that, but it's very important. Is it a PDP? Is it a listicle? Now, if you know that you just want to improve your product page, then you can already say that here. You can write that down. And when you do your competitor analysis, it will just be clear to you that you're looking at other PDPs, which is why I think it's important to have all this stuff. So we like to understand margins, the annual lifetime value and stuff like that, because understanding these things makes it possible for us to be more creative about the offer. You know, we gave a free ring in this example we had over here, but I couldn't have done that if the margins were super tight, because I wouldn't be able to afford that, right? So it's important to understand the unit economics and the margins and all that stuff. So these are all the questions we ask, and then once it's answered, we like to just do a Google Sheet where we just answer things. If we have more information, we just like kind of put everything in here, and this kind of sets us off on the right track. So let's go back to our process again and look at where we're at, right? So we got our information. We can now set off stage one. We got a kickoff. We have a deadline because we have the onboarding form filled, and we have verified that the client is happy with that, right? And if it's just something you're doing yourself, you just fill it out and you're good to go. The next thing that's really nice is to start a design phase, a strategy phase, and a research phase. So 3 different levers that you can utilize here. We like to use something called markup.io, and if you are doing this for yourself, it can be tough because you're kind of blinded by being in the forest a whole week and you just don't understand what is outside the forest, right? So basically you don't know what's wrong. So here you can hire a consultant. If you want an outside analysis, you can do a UX designer, and you could also have a CRO consultant do this for you, right? We obviously have our own internal resources to do this. I'll show you what it looks looks like. So basically, when we started working with a client, we flagged a billion different things we didn't think was nice. And this is honestly just to get the first sort of overlook at what this website is about and the issues it may have and things we need to remember. So we have two people coming in, a designer and a SEO specialist, and we're just flagging everything we can see that would be important to note, or things that needs to be changed, or things that's not clear, or from a UX perspective, is there anything that needs to be fixed? So we're flagging all these comments, and there are tons and tons and tons of comments, and we can kind of like take that out and download and use it for later. Now, if you go back to our process, this will be done for design, this will be done for CRO, and that kind of takes us to the next step, right? So we have all our markup analysis done, and they are now responsible for delivering a report on design where they take all their markup comments and kind of deliver a design report and a CO report, and then we are ready for the third phase, which is research. In research, we're doing message mining, we're doing competitor analysis, and we're doing a lot of internal data analysis, and then we'll compile the research report in the end. So let me show you a little bit of what that looks like. So from a CRO analysis, we always like to run them through this framework here. Basically, we kind of make sure that we're eliminating all frictions. That's number one. We are establishing motivations, and that needs to be done, otherwise no one is going to buy. And we need to understand what are the real motivations here. It's not just what we think are the right ones. And a lot of brands, by the way, go off track here because they think they know the benefits that resonate with people, but they actually don't. The way you fix that is literally to review all the Amazon reviews, everything you can find on the product competitors, and you want to engage in either manual work or get an AI to analyze the sentiment in every single review. This is so key, because if you're not doing that, you really don't understand what benefits are important. You also want to communicate value, and if that's not being done, then a lot of people are just going to not really click that add to cart button because they cannot see that it's worth the money. Now, this will be different on all different businesses because, obviously no one is the same. So this is a framework you can copy and just kind of apply to your own PDP or landing page and make sure that that is done. And that goes into the CRO report that the CRO specialist is delivering, just so you know that is the CRO that's responsible for delivering that. The research that I talked about is very important too. I'll give you an example here, and you can use these two different tools that I just did for the sake of making sure you can kind of go to the next step here. SunGuru is a way to analyze Amazon reviews, and if you have a product that's not on Amazon, you'll likely see there's a competitor that has Amazon listings, and you can still scrape and get value out of it. So just letting you know, find the most comparable product on Amazon can still give you a lot of value here. You can also scrape YouTube comments. So if you have a product that have YouTube videos on it, that can also be done there. And that is really good for different industries where YouTube is kind of dominant. So just letting you know, you can actually do it. We've also used ChatGPT, the paid version, and we have built our own software where we can basically target any URL we want. It will scrape all the reviews, and then we'll start analyzing them. And basically what you do here is you categorize them into these different points. Here you have your goals, your benefits, your pain points, your secondary values, your other solutions, your objections, and so on. And basically start tagging everything up in here. And if you're really good, you can get an AI to do this, but you can also do it manually, or you get someone on Upwork or Fiverr or whatever to help you with that. But basically what you can see here is that we're scraping and we're analyzing everything so we can understand what is important for the customer. And this is really, really, really important, because this is where you learn what copy you want to use. If we take it a step further, we've now indicated what our goals, benefits, and results. So basically you can see all the goals, benefits, results here, our pain points, and so on. Now, if you want to take it a step further, what you do is you start doing categorization. So you read the review, it's a benefit, but what type of benefit is it? It's pain relief, right? And this one is well-being, and so on. So you might do this for all your goals and benefits, and then at the end you can do a pivot table and say pain relief is number 1, feeling relaxed is number 2, better sleep number 3. And it's important that you do it in the right order, by the way, because if you do it in the right order, you will understand how to prioritize the content. And this is where a lot of people go wrong. They just don't know how to prioritize, and they're not doing the data that is needed for it. So that's really, really important, and we do that as well. We're in this research phase for the most part right now, what I'm showing you, and then we're also showing you what each person is responsible for. to deliver for the strategy report, right? Which is sort of the whole foundation of doing a good landing page. I want to show you another thing we're doing. So basically we're dumping a lot of the things. We do basically a copy dump onto a sheet, and we utilize this to understand, okay, what do we have for the announcement bar? What would be important for product information? What could we do for the sticky card, right? So we kind of analyze what we want to do, what media testimonials do we want to do, how do we want to explain how it works? So we kind of dump all the benefits and the visual proof and blah, 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 all this stuff here. And we found that this is a good way to structure a new landing page, is to kind of dump it into different categories. And you may not necessarily use all of it. Like, for example, I might not have a sticky card with all this information, but I have it, and then I can kind of play with it. As I do my landing page, I can grab, obviously I want my price, I want a button, and maybe I want a warranty, but I don't want to talk about the trial, right? So I have this in a structured way, and all this information has been gathered from our, message mining and reviews scraping, and obviously the old website and so forth. We might have some from our markup, we might have some from our design report, we might have some from our CO report, and that just helps us to copy everything into and dump it here on the sheet, and that sort of forms the basis, the copy. The next thing we do is that we also look through what we just know works really well from the past. We have these copywriting tactics, which is very, direct response. So we always kind of look through our copy in the end and say, okay, are we using the right tactics to grab attention? Because we know if we cannot hook them immediately, then we're basically going to lose them within a second. So let's look at how we utilize that when we design the page. So let's go over here again. So we know they're buying traffic from Meta, and so when we went into our iterations, we didn't see anything here that immediately hooks the customer. Basically, there's almost no copy. I can barely understand the product. I cannot even look at the product well. I don't understand what it's doing, and I don't know the benefits. So a lot of people are going to bounce here when you're buying traffic from socials, especially TikTok and Meta. Here, what is, different iterations, you can see we have a pain-free promise, which is something we did specifically from mining reviews and understanding what people love and care about. What is the number one reason people buy an acupuncture mat? It is to get pain-free. So we did a promise around that. We added in some benefits here to further explain the product, which is not explained here. We added a gallery that's easily accessible, and we redid the images as well, so that also helps a lot. And then obviously we put the benefits here so people can understand these are benefits. And then we have hidden a little bit of content behind these little buttons because we don't want to overwhelm them with too much content as well, right? We also learned from data that most people are suffering from back pain and neck pain. And it was really, really important that we use the right wording here. Otherwise, it's just not going to capture people. The only thing that is missing over here is the selector here. And the reason why it's not showing is because it is kind of shown down here in the bottom because there's a sticky add to cart, right? So that was the sticky add to cart we actually went with in the end, but it's definitely grabbing people in a much stronger way, and I definitely think that this is going to move the needle. We also, because we run like 30 different A/B tests for other clients in the past, have added in the things we think are important for people, and as you scroll down, this will be sticky, and then you can click on reviews and instantly see the reviews, click on features and instantly see the features. We found that these are the things that motivate people to buy, right? So we did that too. Super extensive, but that's just what needed. So anyway, let's back up a second, right? So we're doing our research, right? Let's go back to it again. And we have done our copy, but we also need to do our competitor research, and we have a few more reports to run. So in our competitor research, we can obviously do the same thing. We can scrape reviews. We could even do our own markup analysis, and we could have a designer and a SEO specialist also deliver a report on a competitor, because there might be a lot of learnings. But what we can also do is utilize a resource that we published on Purple Fire, where we can basically indicate what kind of landing pages we're interested in. And I like to go broad here. I don't like to be too selective. So I might do accessories, I might do beauty, I might do cosmetics, and perhaps I'm gonna do health and wellness. All right, or maybe even one more. I'll go super broad because I just like to get inspired, right? So then I see all the top brands from the top D2C brands around the world, and I want to see what are they doing for their PDPs that potentially could inspire me, and are there any products that are a little bit similar to ours as well? Is it something related to, getting pain free, for example? That would be really good. Is it something related to health, right? So there's tons and tons of different things you can look at here, and I'm especially interested in seeing something that might be beneficial for me here. This one, for example, just piqued my interest just because it's something related to treatments. So I can click here, and what you do is you right click, open image in new tab, go to new tab, click once and then you can see the whole landing page. You know, I can see here, this is some kind of Viagra, right? So this is interesting. This is a very taboo niche, but it's extremely difficult to sell these kind of things because there's a lot of laws and there's a lot of limitations. So I could go in here and research like how are they actually selling adult products that are difficult to sell because of that. So I want to see, okay, they're highlighting some reviews. Are they doing a good job here? What can I learn from it? So that's one thing. You know, this is a top brand. They're selling millions and millions of dollars every single month. So what are they doing here that I can learn from? And I can just go further and further down and see what I can find here. So what I like to do is find 5 or 10 different landing pages that I actually really like. Here's another one from SolarWave. So let's take a look at that and open it up, and we can see here they have a benefit rich copy up here. They're definitely looking to hook people, and they have a few benefits here, a video to hook them again, and then a little bit about the process. I think it could be way better, but there's something about hooking them like that I actually think works super well. So that's something I definitely want to try. Once I have some landing pages that I love, I can utilize those landing pages and I can utilize my copy dump and everything else, and I can start to play around and kind of do mug-ups with all this information. And usually what we do is that we have the SEO specialist adjust the copy and give it to the designer, and then the designer will come back and kind of work from there together with the SEO specialist. So who is doing it is the designer and the SEO specialist. They're kind of taking all the reports and putting it together. Now usually what will happen is we will kick off phase 2. We'll start designing everything here, and initially we'll have aligned with the client on a few different things, like what do you think about this offer, what do you think about this copy, is there anything here we're not allowed to say, right? So this is what this phase is about here, which is really, really important. Then we start visualization, we start designing it, we have this process in place that just works really well. We have our copy reservoir that is what I just talked about, where we dumped all the content, and this is really, really nice. We created a few different versions of the landing page, and we kind of go through an internal review, which we don't show the client, where we're just doing iterations and kind of messing around with stuff. We like to build things in blocks. So basically, you know, you could imagine this page right here that I might call this above the fold, and I'm working extensively on that. And then I have my social proof. And basically what it means is that if I am not happy with this social proof, then I can easily flip this image out or this here. So basically this goes in modules, right? And this is another module. And so I can easily flip things around. And it really is helpful to work in modules like that instead of just one big landing page, because you're breaking it into smaller tasks, right? And then you have the path to comfort, show the client how they get there, right? Like all the different steps. So these are the 2 areas here that we show them how easy it is to get going with the product. Then we have social proof, UGC, and then we break down more with details. So we have all these are sections which are interchangeable. You can easily swap them around to kind of keep doing iterations and work. But let's just say we've finished everything, we do an internal review, then we send it over to the client and show them everything when we're happy with it. And if there are iterations, and we do the adjustments, and we then send it back to the client if they're happy, and if they're not happy, we do another iteration. Now the final step comes, which is where most brands are completely off and just not sure how to do things. Well, you want to split test things. You don't want to just implement it because you're not sure what is actually happening. So basically we set up a split test. We use convert.com, right? So you can use Convert for any A/B testing here, just a bunch of our clients, right? And so I can go into a client and I can look at performance of a test, and I can set it up and I can say, hey, this is the location of the test. For landing pages or product pages, you want to make sure that you're doing an A/B test. You can do multiple versions. I like to only do 2 versions because I can conclude the data faster. Now the audience in this test is set for only mobile. You can do a lot of work with audiences here. What is very, very important is that you make sure that you're split testing the traffic. In the beginning, I like to split test it from ads, but you can also split test it from all visitors. I like to do it on ads because I want to make sure that if I'm creating a very beautiful bespoke experience, that I'm only testing it from ads, because I don't want to have people browsing the website expecting something else when really they're landing on a brand new experience, right? Because it's completely different at the design, so it can throw some people off. So you can set this to UGM parameters of specific cold ad campaigns, which is what I like to do. Or you can also set it to different devices and so forth. So I like to do that. Conversion goals are really, really important too. And this is also a way that some split tests are failing. So let's go back to our example again. So basically we have this split test here. Obviously you want to make sure that this button and this button are both triggering an add to cart, but there might be other things that could be triggered on the old page, what if you had upsell buttons, right? That also can make it possible for you to purchase. That is really, really important too. And what if this product here can be bought from another bundle or from another page, which triggers like a mess up in data? So it's very important that you're testing apples to apples and making sure there's no additional buttons which you don't have on the new versions. That would mean that this page is going to be heavily in favor of winning a test because there's just more conversion objectives. So for example, let's say that on this page there's only one add to cart button, and on the new page we have a bunch of upsells, which any of those buttons can trigger a conversion rate. Well, it's important that you are then tagging up every single button to make sure that each of them attributes a purchase from any of them, right? But not multiple purchases. So you need to do it correctly, otherwise you're not going to see one-to-one results, and this can really kill a landing page test. So that's how you set everything up here. I would obviously add to cart, conversion rate. I might want to do additional objectives because I want to make sure, for example, I want to see if people are consuming the content. My thesis is that if they consume the content, they're actually going to buy. So I'll do a few more things. This button here is fine. And then there's purchase. There's really nothing else on this page. I'll tag this one up here. I'll also want to tag up how many people are playing these videos down here, how many people are scrolling at least 50% down. That's a soft conversion objective. Also, I have a sticky add to cart button, and I want to measure that as well. It's not going to count double, but any like this button here and this button here, both will trigger an add to cart event. And if you didn't do it correctly, it would only be one of the buttons that would trigger it, which means that you will lose a lot of add to carts, and the test will show up like it's actually losing, but it's not, right? So that's very important here. I might want to do a bunch of extra objectives. Now, what I really like to do is I want to integrate with analytics. So you want to do your analytics here. That's very, very important. You can also integrate with Hotjar. I like that, but you are potentially using other tools. So any kind of direct integration you have, mouse flow, doing that will be very helpful, because if you integrate, let's say with Hotjar, I can easily watch all the recordings of people exposed to this test, which is helpful. Now, in terms of analyzing the results in the very end is also important. So I'm just using this as an example. So this one ran from the 23rd till today. It's now paused. This means we had a long period of which the test ran, but actually I think it was paused on May 1st. So we're looking at honestly only a week of data, which is a little bit on the short side. This client wanted to pause the test because they just saw it looked amazing. They wanted to just be implemented, but I always recommend testing about 2 weeks or so, because usually you will see that you can trust the data if you run 2 business cycles. Definitely want to do that as well. Usually what you'll see in an A/B test is that the conversion rate flies through the roof the first day, and then it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And that's actually what you see here as well. It gets a little bit smaller, but stays consistently better, which is why we're having this 14% conversion increase with a lot of data. Now, revenue per visitor can also be important, and that stays pretty consistent as well. As you can see, it was also a jump up, but otherwise it stays consistently higher, which is obviously an amazing return for the client. So those are things to take into consideration when testing. Usually testing it too little of a time is why you're not able to see the revenue jump up once it's implemented. And this is because the data was not statistically significant in the test, and that's basically why you're not seeing any results at all. So this is something I would do if I was you. I would be testing it for a longer period of time. What I want to kind of wrap this video up with, I know it was a long one, but this is sort of like a master session on landing pages, is that in the split test period here, you want to analyze the results if it fails 100% of the time, right? So you want to do your QA again. You want to see if their buttons are not working, not triggering. You want to see your heat maps, your scroll maps, your click maps. You want to do your session recordings to see what's happening. You want to look at your GA4 to see what's happening in the data. And you obviously want to have internal brainstorms to understand why people are not buying. Usually what we also do is set up surveys, even on our split test, to understand why people are not buying, to see if we can get some data. And then we will launch an iteration at the very end with a new design, with a hypothesis for why this will be better, and then we'll run it again. And then if it loses, we repeat the same cycle, obviously try new ideas until it wins. Once it wins, we take it down here. This is the really big thing. Now, we work with a lot of clients where we take them quite far with landing pages. And right now we're actually having a pretty good deal with our clients where we guarantee them a uplift, which is 10% conversion uptick if you work with us on landing pages. If we don't get that 10% conversion uptick, then we'll do iterations like what I just showed you for about as long as it takes, honestly. It can be 2, 3, 4, 5 iterations until we get it. Our thesis is that if we get you a 10% uptick in conversion rate, first of all, you're going to make money. Second of all, you can scale your ads more than you ever did before. And finally, if we did a good job on that, you will want to work with us long term, which is what really makes sense for us. Obviously, this is where we actually shine. So, it just makes sense to do a guarantee. So it's 10% guaranteed uptake. This is interesting to you. You can go to the website, schedule a call, or just email me at daniel@purplefire.io, and we can talk about how we can do a landing page for you. So I know this was a long video, but hopefully that gave you some ideas on how you can do it. And if you have any questions, do let me know, and we'll speak soon.